All right, let's just say you've been fired from your job of 5 years, or your husband or wife leaves you. There's been a tragedy in your country, any worst case scenario you can imagine. If someone came along and told you that in reality, this horrible situation is the best opportunity for spiritual practice, you might think they're crazy. But this is what the Buddha taught: how to transform problems into the path of enlightenment. It makes sense. The world is still full of war and poverty, and our minds are full of delusions like anger, jealousy, and attachment. Problems are constant. But we can learn to use these otherwise unfortunate circumstances as an opportunity to accelerate our spiritual growth. Using techniques based on loving kindness and compassion for others and ourselves, we can learn to face difficult situations with skill, wisdom, and humor, and literally transform problems into happiness.
Transforming suffering into the path to enlightenment is at the very heart of the Buddha's Mahayana teachings. But these thought transformation techniques are, in fact, very difficult to practice. When they were first taught, they were kept secret for that very reason, because of their difficulty. Thought transformation techniques are based in bodhicitta, and therefore it's essential when one receives these teachings to receive them with a mind imbued by bodhicitta, the attitude wishing to attain enlightenment as quickly as possible, in order to understand thought transformation correctly. Therefore, for that reason, generate in your mind now a strong intention to achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible, in order to bring to enlightenment all other suffering mother sentient beings quickly.
So I assume everybody here has problems? Yeah. Often when we have problems, we feel like we're the only people who have problems. But wouldn't you say everybody has problems? But our problems are worse than other people's, right? Isn't it? Definitely, 100% worse, yeah. So we should be the object of other people's sympathy and their compassion and their aid. And the way to transform our problems is to get them to stop doing all the nasty things they're doing towards us, right? That's not actually transforming our problem, that's throwing the problem at the other person, okay? Telling them that they're the source of our problem, and believing it ourselves, that other people are the source of our problems. Okay? When we have that view on life, you know, that I'm just this little old innocent, sweet, charming, wonderful, joyful person who doesn't mean harm to anybody, and yet all these mean, nasty, cruel, vicious, ununderstanding people cause me problems. We have to totally get out of this idea of blaming. Yeah. Because we're very much, I think, a country and a culture that likes to point the finger and blame. And, you know, you caused it, you did it, you're going to suffer. Okay? If there's a problem, you know, finding somebody to blame means finding somebody that we can cause to suffer, thinking that when somebody else suffers, we're going to feel better afterwards. Okay? I think that whole way of looking at life doesn't work. Okay? because it's not about finding one cause, because everything's interdependent and everybody contributes something. Okay? And it's not about finding the cause so that we can punish somebody. Now, how do we work with problems? How do we transform problems? Okay. I think it depends on how we look at a situation. Okay? First of all, how we define a problem. Because there could be some event going on with somebody else, and you can call it a problem, or you can call it an opportunity. And this is kind of the difference between whether we're looking at things in a worldly way or whether we're looking at them in a spiritual way. Okay? Because in a worldly way, we label a situation a problem when our needs and wants aren't getting met. Isn't that kind of the definition of a problem for you? When your needs and wants aren't getting met, when your expectations aren't getting met, when your plans aren't happening. Okay? So we have an idea of the situation, and what we're looking for is pleasure and happiness and getting our way and being right. Okay? That's kind of what our goal is. Yeah? Our goal in a situation is my happiness. When the goal of my happiness, and preferably my happiness now rather than later, okay, when that goal is frustrated, we call that a problem. Okay? So, yeah, and that's our usual worldly way of looking at things, isn't it? Okay? Now, if we're spiritual practitioners, the goal of any situation is not my pleasure. Think about that one for a while. Can you imagine living your life where the goal is not your own pleasure and not your own happiness? Does that seem like something that's possible? Hello out there. If we're trying to practice a spiritual path, our goal in a situation is not my happiness. Our goal is to learn. Okay? Our goal is to learn about ourselves. Our goal is to learn about others. Our goal is to, through this learning, be able to purify our own mind and develop our own good qualities. Our goal is, through this learning, to be able to contribute to the welfare of the world, to, help sentient other living beings along the path to enlightenment, to help them even in some, ordinary way now. So when we change that paradigm, when our goal in a situation is different, okay, then it becomes much more difficult to have problems. So in everything that we experience, everything that we do, there's always something to learn. If we approach life with that my purpose in this situation is to learn something that in the end of the day will be useful for myself and for others, then we're never going to have a problem, because in every situation we can learn. When our focus becomes on our own training and our own practice, then our focus stops being to make other people change and make other people different so that they stop causing our problems, because we realize at some level that we can't. Okay? The transformation of the problems starts here with this one. Okay? And it starts with looking at our reactions to the situations that we're in, and really being able to look honestly at our reactions, not paint them over, not be sweet, okay, but really kind of be able to sit there and, okay, somebody's acting this way. Why am I reacting in this? What do I think I need from this person that they aren't giving me? And how, where does contentment really come from? When you're content, do you get angry? No. When you're content, do you get jealous? When you're content, do you hold on to a grudge? When you're content, are you full of greed and craving? When you're content, do you hide your mistakes and pretend you don't have them? When you're content, do you pretend to be somebody you're not and impress people falsely? No. It's like when there's a feeling of contentment in our own mind, then kind of naturally we act with kindness. And a lot of, all those negative emotions and then the behaviors that they cause, they just get pacified automatically because there's no dissatisfied, discontent feeling inside that motivates all of those other attitudes and behaviors. The kind of contentment that we're trying to develop is not the contentment of, I got my way, I got my needs met, the world's love me. It's not that. It's the contentment of us feeling okay about ourselves. It's come simply through our own spiritual practice by using our own mind. When Buddhism talks about contentment, we should not equate contentment with apathy. They're two different things. With apathy, we don't care. Okay? And you can be apathetic and discontent. Can't you? Yeah? And I think very often the nihilistic position that people go into in our society, of, well, it's all worthless, or it's just, you just sign it off. This is, it's discontent compounded with apathy. Okay? Whereas contentment is a totally different ballgame. Okay? Contentment is a feeling of well-being in ourselves. So we can have this contentment, some kind of self-confidence. And that will lead